Today I'd like to give you a quick introduction to Henri Nouwen and an overview of his book, Life of the Beloved. Nouwen was a Roman Catholic priest and scholar. He was from the Netherlands and taught for 10 years at Yale. For the last 10 years of his life, Nouwen became involved with l'Arche. It's a supportive community for people with intellectual disabilities. He lived outside of Toronto at the l'Arche Daybreak community in Richmond Hill. Nouwen was a prolific writer on spirituality, writing 39 books in total, some of the most popular being The Wounded Healer, The Return of the Prodigal Son, and this one that I've got, Life of the Beloved. One of the reasons for his popularity is because he wrote so openly about his struggles with loneliness and clinical depression. Readers really connected with his vulnerability, especially at a time when society didn't talk as much as we do now about mental illness. After his death, it became publicly known that Nouwen was gay, and looking back, you can see the influence that his sexuality had on his writing. I tell you this biography of Nouwen because, like anyone, his theology and spirituality and personal life, they're all deeply connected. Now that we know who Henri Nouwen is, we'll do a quick walkthrough of his book, Life of the Beloved. It's a short book. If you're an avid reader, you can get through the whole thing in one sitting. The subtitle to the book is Spiritual Living in a Secular World. And Nouwen attempts here to write something for a secular audience. Nouwen, in his prologue to the book, is inspired by his 10-year friendship with Fred Bratman. Bratman was a writer himself. He was Jewish but secular, and he said to Nouwen that as much as he liked Nouwen's writings, they never spoke to him as a secular person. Nouwen wrote with too much church jargon. Nouwen took this on as a challenge. Could he write about spirituality in a way that Bratman and his friends would get? For Nouwen, the key part to his spirituality is the knowledge that we are loved, beloved, by a divine being. The main scriptural image for this book is Jesus' baptism, and the moment when God looks down from heaven and says, "You are my Son, the Beloved. My favor rests on you." In the same way, with the same compassion, God looks on all of us and says, "You are my beloved. On you my favor rests." Our main struggle in life is that we can't accept this love. We have those negative voices in our heads that say we're unworthy, we're stupid, we're ugly. Even the most arrogant and self-centered among us struggle with self-doubt and insecurities. Self-rejection, Nouwen writes, is the greatest enemy of the spiritual life because it contradicts the sacred voice that calls us the beloved. If we embrace our belovedness, it transforms the way that we interact with the world. It is one thing to be told that you are beloved by God, but it takes a journey of a lifetime to embrace that truth, to truly become beloved. Nouwen says, becoming the beloved means letting the truth of our belovedness become enfleshed in everything we think, say, or do. To explain the process of becoming the beloved, Nouwen uses the metaphor of communion, or the Eucharist. At the Last Supper, Jesus took bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to his disciples. We are like that bread, taken, blessed, broken, and given. The first step is the claim that we are taken. Now the word take sounds a little rough in English, and now it suggests that we think of it more as chosen. God chooses the Israelite people and took them out of Egypt. They are a chosen nation. And in the same way, all of us are a chosen people claimed by God. You are special, unique, and precious. The world will say that you're not. It will say that if everyone's special, then no one's special. But that's not true. God's love is not a pie, it's not a competition. The world is manipulative, controlling, and power-hungry. It wants to fill you with self-doubt because self-hatred sells products. Instead of listening to the world, Nouwen says, you have to keep looking for people and places where your truth is spoken and where you are reminded of your deepest identity as the chosen one. And you have to intentionally celebrate your chosenness. That means saying thank you to God for choosing you and practicing gratitude throughout your life. Not only are you chosen by God, you are blessed. Nouwen talks about attending a bar mitzvah with his friend Bratman. After the young man gave his sermon, his parents stood in front of the synagogue and his dad said, "Son, whatever will happen to you in your life, whether you will have success or not, become important or not, will be healthy or not, always remember how much your mother and I love you." Nouwen was moved by tears at that moment. What a blessing the parents gave their child. The word bless comes from the Latin benedicere, meaning speaking, dictio, and well, bene. It is saying good things of someone. It is giving an affirmation. It is saying yes to a person's belovedness. This can be so powerful. Think of the moments in your life when someone really saw you, saw your potential and innate beauty. Maybe it was a teacher or a grandparent, or when you fell in love, or when a colleague, someone you respected, gave you a meaningful compliment. It doesn't just encourage you, Nouwen says, it helps you to create the reality of which it speaks. Not everyone, however, grows up with those supportive voices around them. And even still, we hear so much condemnation in the world that it can drown out the words of blessing. We feel more cursed than blessed. To counter this, Nouwen has two suggestions. First is prayer. The real work of prayer, he writes, is to become silent and listen to the voice that says good things about me. It's easier said than done. We're quick to shut down that voice. It can take practice to be still, to push aside the negative voices in your head, to hear the voice of love within you. If you're new to prayer, there are tools that can help. Written prayers, mantras, prayer groups, guided meditations. Nouwen's second suggestion for claiming your blessedness is to cultivate presence, getting away from the busyness of this world and being present in the moment. Take time to see the many ways that you are blessed right now. Bring to mind those people who have blessed you in the past. Affirming your own blessedness is not selfish or self-indulgent, because the more you feel blessed, the more you can be a blessing for others. We are beloved and blessed, but we are also broken. Nouwen is quick to acknowledge how he is broken by loneliness and depression. You and I may be broken in similar or different ways. Our brokenness reveals something about us. The way that you are broken tells me something unique about you. Each person, each human being suffers in a way that no other human being suffers. That's why there's no sense comparing someone else's suffering with our own. There is no comparison. How do we respond to this brokenness? First, we must befriend it. The first step to healing is not a step away from the pain, but a step towards it. You are who you are because of the ways that you have suffered. Even some of our greatest joys have come at the cost of personal pain and suffering. Your brokenness is nothing to be ashamed of. It is part of what makes you beautiful and unique. Take that brokenness out from the darkness. Put it under the light, under a blessing. Nouwen mentions the freedom that can come by joining an AA group and speaking openly about your brokenness. In the same way, Nouwen's openness about his own pain, his longing to be touched and befriended, has blessed everyone who's read his works. Your brokenness is not a curse. It is part of who you are. And this is why, like the Apostle Paul, you should rejoice in your sufferings. The final step in becoming the beloved is to be given. Chosen, blessed, broken, and given. Our greatest fulfillment lies in giving ourselves to others. Think of a wedding and a couple giving themselves to each other. Think of a baby being held in its parents' arms. Think of friendships that have been carried into old age. Your greatest joys will come from the ways that you give yourself to another. Nouwen writes about 2 ways of being given: giving oneself in life and giving oneself in death. The real gift isn't what you do for someone else, like cutting their grass or baking them a pie. No, the real gift is you. It is not about what we offer each other, it is who we will be for each other. Yes, it's important that you use your gifts and talents to bless the world, but none of that compares to the simple gift of being present in someone else's life. Not only is our life a gift, but our death can be too. Nouwen writes about some friends of his who had died, and the biting pain he feels at their absence, his immense grief. But even here he sees a gift. Their deaths open up the possibility of a new, more radical communion, a new intimacy, a new belonging to each other. Your love for them carries beyond the grave and continues to be a blessing to you. Not every death is like this. I've presided myself at several funerals where no one could muster a kind word about the deceased. There is such a thing, Nouwen says, as a good death, and we are responsible for the way we die. When you live a life of recognizing your chosenness, being blessed and a blessing, open about your brokenness, giving your life to those around you, then even your death can be a means by which God blesses others. It will prompt the people you love to reflect on the nature of life, to honor the love that you shared, to appreciate better the community around them. Your presence in this world, both your life and your death, can be a beautiful gift, a movement of love that ripples out into ever new and wider circles. Living the life of a beloved means seeing yourself as chosen, blessed, broken, and given. Such a perspective can radically change the way that you operate in the world, but it can be hard to describe. Nouwen writes, "It's very hard for me to explain to you this radical change because it is a change that cannot be described in ordinary terms, nor can it be taught or practiced as a new discipline of self-knowledge. The change of which I speak is the change from living life as a painful test to prove that you deserve to be loved, to living it as an unceasing yes to the truth of that belovedness. Put simply, life is a God-given opportunity to become who we are, to affirm our own true spiritual nature, claim our truth, appropriate and integrate the reality of our being, but most of all, to say yes to the one who calls us beloved." Nouwen started this book as a challenge from a friend to write something for a secular audience without all the churchy jargon. Did he succeed? Well, Nouwen sent the manuscript to his friend, and the answer he got back was no. I'm sure you saw yourself that Nouwen writes from a very Christian perspective. It's based on Jesus' baptism and on communion. Even if he didn't use churchy words, it's all built on this foundation of faith. Nouwen felt miserable about failing here, and it prompted him into some deep self-reflection. He wasn't sure what to do with this book until he got feedback from some other people he had sent it to. His Christian friends found it really encouraging. They said, "You might not have been able to write all that Fred needs to hear, but Fred certainly enabled you to write what we need to hear. Couldn't you just be happy with that?" And in this, Nouwen sees the mystery of God, who uses secular friends to instruct believers. I hope that this has been instructive to you. Know that you are blessed. Embrace yourself as taken, blessed, broken, and given. Celebrate the truth that you are a beloved gift from God to the whole world. And may this bring you some peace and joy. Amen.